know what the other streams are going to be finishing up. Trust and Hero are still finishing up as far as I know. Hero up 2-0. And there is going to be another match beyond that. The other tiebreaker match, I guess is what they're calling it. This one is Ryung versus PenguiN. The other one will be Neeb versus... well, probably Trust, because Trust is losing. Well, we'll see. And so this is the best of 5. Damn it. And in the top left, as the red Zerg, it is PenguiN. In the bottom right, as the blue Terran, he is Ryung. Commentate a little more for the audio. Hopefully it's totally perfect, and if it's not, well, oh well then. What are you thinking about 2011? I gotta keep up my shit posting in chat, guys. I can't do it. I can't live without it. God. Anyways, so TvZ, we see a lot of TvZs today. Most TvZs. I think that was the only non-TvZ we saw. No, we saw TvT, that's right, but still. A lot of Terran. Missed out on the PvP action, saw very little of the Protoss in general, I guess. And they aren't doing so hot. So it's not, that's why we missed out on them. We have 4 Terrans and 3 Zerg qualified. There are also some invites, I believe, to the actual tournament itself, but I don't remember who they are. And there are only 3 Protoss left. So, yeah, balanced if you ask me, am I right, guys? Okay, no. But yeah, there's a lot of TvZs. There's also a lot of Cheese and Triple Rax Reaper. Not something that Ryung is going to do, even though it's Odyssey, and this is a map I think we saw every single time, it being some type of cheese. Not the case for Ryung here. Ryung can be a cheesy guy, but I'd say that he's kind of well-rounded in general. We don't know a lot about his playstyle recently because he doesn't play in a lot of stuff. I mean, Alima Leagues, BTSLs, stuff that we do. Don't see Ryung too often, or if he does play, we don't get to catch him. So he gets knocked out in the round of 8 or something like that. So as to what exactly this guy plays like, couldn't tell you as much as I could tell you about Gumiho, Alive, ByuN, Innovation, Keen, a lot of Terrans. But we do know that Ryung is good. In fact, he's pretty damn solid. Getting back in the GSL. One of those guys that's a very old player, but is having more of his highlight years. You know, like, I think probably his best time was when he made the GSL semifinals, the infamous Imba GSL semifinals. But beyond that, he didn't really have anything going for him. But he's been okay lately. Some Lings do get past. The Reaper wasn't looking for them, but the command center was already done, so the Helen just pop out and get rid of them. They didn't have quite a speed yet either. Not responding to the Reaper as soon as possible means that it does get a drone. Got 2 drones? And is able to get out. This Odyssey does have a little back Reaper spot. Viking is on the way to go ahead and clear out some Overlords, and then maybe we'll see some Banshees as the Tech Lab is already on at Starport. PenguiN did see this with something or another. Well, I guess that could just be Stim in the medevac. Alright, so he isn't quite sure. And seeing a Viking instead of... Well, seeing a Viking in general might make him believe that it wasn't swapped over, so the Banshees might just be a surprise. But we saw a game where PenguiN was surprised by Banshees and still managed to make quite a good game of it. So, maybe not the worst thing. PenguiN going for a bit of a faster layer, not the fastest, but before his upgrades. This Reaper really wants to scout it, and it does successfully get the scout. It also distracts as those Hellions try and run into the natural. They only managed to barbecue 2 drones, as the rest were pulled very quickly. 3. And the Lings might want to stop chasing that. There you go. 3rd CC on the way. Ryung was a guy that was going for mech builds, even when they weren't the most popular thing in the world. Not quite as good as Gumiho, of course, but still trying. I'd bring that up as he will have at least delayed stim, but there it still remains to be seen. Viking takes out yet another Overlord, already up to 2. Hellions taking control of the Zelnagas, and it is in fact going to be mech double armory thrown down here. So not just a Hellbat push, but a follow-up of more and more Hellions, and PenguiN's going to want to scout this. Now, a fast Spire is not that bad against mech. Gives you a lot of control over the map, over the game. But double upgraded Lings might not be what you had in mind if you really knew what they were going to do. And that's seems to be where PenguiN's going. Hellions actually managed to get around the Lings, go for the drones. A pretty quick pull from PenguiN to try and block, but also reduce damage was nice enough. Only 2 Hellions won't kill these drones, so 5 of them go down. But that's not all of the Hellions that PenguiN will see. If someone goes bio, then that's kind of it, you know? Okay, I don't have to worry about Hellbats, I don't have to worry about follow-up Hellions. I can just let my Lings roam free, but we know that isn't the case. Double Banshee, there is a Spore Crawler. They could dabble around the gas geysers, but don't feel like it. Take care of a couple drones. PenguiN still has no idea that it's Mac. He is upgrading his Lings as well as getting a Baneling Nest. It doesn't have to be the worst thing in the world to open up with this style, especially if they're going to go for just mass Hellbat Thor. But it is more about the pacing of the game. That's, you know, if you know you're going against mech, especially the old-fashioned type of mech that starts out real slow and just looks to build a 3rd and a 4th base and not ever attack, then you're going to want to try and outpace them. You're going to get better upgrades, you're going to get more bases, and you're going to get a booming economy into a large force of X, Y, or Z. But if you think it's bio, then you're expecting a drop around now, for instance. If it's 3cc, 6 to 7 minutes could be where the Marines come in. At this point in time, PenguiN's probably figuring things out. Yeah, so still no ideal confirmation, but I think he's maybe figuring things out and just continuing along with what he has, and maybe he'll transfer over into Roaches, hell, even Swarm Hosts as the game goes on. Quick cancel on that 4th base. Looks like Ryung is going to be playing as Scooby-Ho has been playing, so that is starting off with Hellbats. Well, I guess Scooby-Ho does start off with more tanks, but I was looking more towards the double Medivacs when I brought up the comparison. That the Medivacs will transfer around the Thors, and then the Hellbats will be able to back them up in an actual push if the Terran desires, and if they see an opportunity. And since PenguiN is going for nothing but Ling and Baneling for right now, that could be an opportunity. Enough Banelings to take out the Hellbats, that's not, you know, so much a problem, but if the Hellions are able to kite and chase, then that's where the problem is. And there are the Thor drops. So let's be a little bit careful against higher mute accounts, of course, but the mute account at this point in time would never be very high. Only 6 on the way. PenguiN did start a Roach Warren and +1 weapons, but obviously a little bit later than he would really want. His Lings and Banelings are looking for an attack on what could have been a potential gold base, but really the 3rd base, so the Thors have not much to help deal with it. Lings, of course, are going to be great, so if the Thors are alone, then Lings are the way to go. But with that increased armor, they're a little bit less of a way to go. Hellions just dive in for the drones. They get blocked out by a couple of Lings over here, so not really too much damage done. This base has to be lifted for fear of losing it. Ugh. 14 SCVs for 4 drones. That ends up going better for PenguiN, who does have a supply lead, and has transferred over into something a little more sturdier against mech, and adding on Hydralist, and probably going to add on an Infestation Pit as well. He saw no tanks. Didn't quite see the 4th CC on the way. 4th and 5th, my bad. So he might not be too sure of when a push could occur, but now he could definitely afford a 4th, hell, even a 5th, as well as an Infestation Pit. Maybe looking for an opportunity. Of course, denying if you can't deny the 3rd base, and I would say that most times you can't in Legacy of the Void, then definitely try to deny the 4th. And if you can't deny the 4th, well, then you're probably going to be dealing with a maxed out mech Terran, and that can be difficult to do. A maxed out mech player is probably the best army you can get, and you're really hoping for some good spellcasters to help make up for that, so usually Vipers. The Vipers aren't as good as they were versus Mech. The Blinding Cloud doesn't last nearly as long, and Mech players are predicting it and dealing with it very well, just Viking Focus Fire. As well as the new Thor, well, new, not really new at this point in time, but the other Thor mode. Banshee doesn't deal with Lings very fast, and the Hellions are being very lazy about this. Deal with it! That's a lot of SCVs killed, but Ryung still had a solid 55 and 4 CCs. No, 5 CCs. This one's done already that he can instantly replace those. The tanks aren't in position to deal with the roaches that are coming to the north, though. And that Thor, while it does pack a punch, needs some help. It goes down. The Banshee eventually will take everything else, but even more SCVs are going down here. And PenguiN is using some very cheap units. He's not quite baller in economy yet, though, so he's got to be a little more careful about this. If you have 6 bases and 2,000, then use all the flipping roaches that you want, but until then, I think it's always a bit of a worry that they'll see an opportunity to counter. But Ryung, not close to maxed out, in fact, not even over 150 supply, probably won't be moving across the middle of the map anytime soon. It's a dangerous thing to do even if you are maxed out, because if you happen to be right here, and there's a concave, and there's Vipers, then you do probably lose that army, and that's very hard to replace. The roaches died means the Hydras don't have protection, but they are finding the mech, most of the mech, out of position. A fast repair on what was a very weak command center was absolutely necessary. That could have been sniped. But as it is, just the SCVs go down, but a lot of Hydras too. Not sure if worth for PenguiN. He is taking another base. He's been mining off that gold. Not quite fully saturated. And is on his way to a hive, about halfway done. I think Ryung, now having dealt with the pushes, having his tanks in position, should be into the full swing of things for production. And we'll be getting closer to that 180 supply. That's usually the moment where mech pushes out. Got a barrack scouting for multi-pronged attacks, which they absolutely should be, but there's enough tanks that I think he's okay. Unless there are Vipers already, which there are not. This is something that Ryung doesn't know about, as he has not scouted the timing on the hive, but is nonetheless, predicting. It is literally the next evolution of this matchup of the Zerg. Looks like PenguiN is keeping in mind that Blue Flame Hellions are going to be running by every now and then, so a couple of spine crawlers are coming down. Unfortunately, Hellions will kill your drones before the spine crawler can say much about it, but the idea is there. Vipers instantly made as soon as the hive is done. We got more upgrades too. I mean, Ryung's going to round out to a 3-3 with his attack much faster, but still a 3-3, and that's going to be a maxed out 3-3 army. Does he have any Vikings? I guess is my question here as we watch the Benevac die. There we go. Only one. The one that was... No, that's a brand new one. Never mind. It wasn't even killing Overlords. It sucks. Oh, that was not a great engagement. Oh, lordy. PenguiN instantly remaxes, but again, still not really accruing that much of a bank, and Ryung now is going to be on 5 bases, one of them being a gold base, and almost to that maxed out point. But yeah, definitely need some Vikings. You need something to actually kill those Vipers, if not before they get Abducts or before they get Blinding Clouds, but at least for after, so that they can't just go away, get the energy, and come back. They can be expensive, especially if they're not controlled correctly. 5 Vipers go diving in for Blinding Clouds they think are going to win the game, and then they don't. And they don't have Vipers already remaxed for the next fight. That's where the Terran really snowballs. Really takes advantage. I guess just a quick little note here on PenguiN's pretty awesome creep spread. Of course, the Hellions, when they were out on the map, were trying to kill drones, not clean up creep, so... It kind of like, I mean, mech kind of like Protoss, or what Protoss used to be, I guess. Like, Protoss definitely changed Legacy of the Void, but, it's one beefy army that isn't really affected so much by creep spread. It's free vision, and it is good speed boost for the Zerg units, but it's not quite the same effect as, Banelings on and off creep. So, creep spread cleanup is an issue. It's not as big of one. When Ryung is ready to push, I don't think he'll care if he's on creep or not. PenguiN looking for an opportunity, but those tanks, that's a long line of tanks, and those Thors are transformed. There are 5 Vipers. Yeah, 5 Vipers, and they have a lot of energy. Scan, see what that army is. What the army looks like, too. Maybe didn't quite the good glimpse that he was hoping for. More command centers. Ryung truly playing to that old-fashioned mech style of just defend, 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 expand, 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 and hope to wear out the Zerg player. PenguiN might be worn out. I mean, he's already taken a couple of questionable engagements. Although now, I mean, he has that bank to make up for it. Hellions find a base that doesn't even have that many drones. Psych. If they turn into Hellbats, they could kill it. Oh, okay, they kill the larva. And then try and go to the natural. Natural doesn't have many drones either. Third base, not many drones. PenguiN has already transferred most of them. But it pulls back the army. It's to be a great opportunity for Ryung to clean up some creep spread, but again, it doesn't seem like he really cares. Oh my god, we're gonna see. Oh my god, we're gonna see air mech. Oh, yeah, why did Rifkin leave? Nah. Alright, well, 3 extra starports. Upgrades on the way for the mech air as well. And things are gonna get very long. Now, PenguiN, what is he thinking right now? He's thinking, I can't break the damn Terran, even if I have Vipers. And beyond that, what can you do against a Terran player? You try and go to Broodlords, hope to catch them before they have enough Vikings, but I think that time is long gone. As, of course, there's going to be 5 starports now. And PenguiN still is even on his way to Greater Spire. So it really is about brute forcing with that ground army. He does find a command center that is just way too far away from any support. And that should go down. Although PenguiN has to be careful not to be trapped. Some of his army going left, some of his army going right. The command center does fall, but a lot of his army ended up attacking into a much more powerful mech army, and Ryung is actually chasing at this point. The Vikings want to go ahead and tear down those Vipers, but PenguiN's doing a decent job of hiding them behind the enemy. Behind his Hydras, rather. Very important micro battle between the Hydras and the Vikings. Vikings and the Vipers do end up surviving. 4 of them with full energy. Ultras are now on the way out as PenguiN lost supplies, so I guess it wasn't too bad of an engagement. He didn't, his entire army wasn't trapped, so he lost enough to replace with bigger and better units. Unfortunately, Ultras really, how much better and bigger are they? Bugger, for short. Against mech. I mean, tanks are really good against Ultras. They're usually not in a very high number. But with mech, they are in a high number. So, well, this is probably the best position that PenguiN would get Ryung out in the middle of the map like this. And he's still very hesitant to take an engagement. I actually have Liberator range on the way, so Liberator is going to be the way to go. Not Mass Raven, which I'm kind of glad to see. But still, a lot of air support. When Ryung loses mech, ground mech that is. As he is also maxed out and could lose a few before he transfers his composition. The PenguiN's going to try and catch Ryung. Want to get out of position. Looks like it's going to work here. It's not having a planetary. Even if it was, it would not hold for very long. His best bet would have probably been to lift it a minute ago and then try to keep it hidden. Command center goes down. SCVs go down. Blinding clouds go down, but the Vipers all die. Oh, but they just about get every single tank. It doesn't last as long as it used to, however, so there it goes. And there goes the Ultras. Not too shabby of a trade, though. Those blinding clouds are about as perfect as they could be in a nice little ring, almost. Just enough Vipers. Some tanks were down here, though, killing a base. And while the army trades out, they both had a bit of bank. A PenguiN, Larva, uses it instantly, and Ryung is having trouble using it, even with all of his starports and all of his factories. What is he at here? 8 factories and 4 starports, actually. Not 5, but 4 starports, still. That should be a lot of production, just it's difficult to make, so. PenguiN just remade a lot of Lings. They would absolutely die to the Hellions. They need to get that surround. Things are getting a little bit hectic. 9 Hellions now on the way as Ryung realizes what his opponent maxed out with. Or partially maxed out with. Corruptor's on the way now, too. I think the Liberators, of course, were scouted. There is no Greater Spire, though, so the Corruptors really are just an answer to the Liberators. Gotta be careful about going too deep with the Corruptors, then. But Ryung is, maybe at this point in time, officially transferring over into Sky Mech. Not just Liberators, but also Vikings. Continuing his upgrades, surprisingly. Building armor, late to the party. High-sec auto-tracking was... I thought it was on the way a while ago. Maybe I was wrong, but... Anyways, it's 20 minutes and only just now running out of structures. Blinding Cloud helps deal with this little tank shenanigan push. To be honest, 4 tanks is usually never a scary number by themselves, but Blinding Cloud made sure that Hydras were kept aplenty. Got some Lings burrowed over here. It'll be very annoying. And PenguiN doing an admirable job pulling the mech player, this and that. There and there and there. You know what? Whatever. I'm tired. Here and there. That's the one. Here and there. But Ryung's kind of getting some revenge, you know? You don't usually see the mech player going all over the map, but he made so many Helens against so many Lings that now he has to deal something with them. He kills 30 drones, he kills a base. That's not too bad. PenguiN is mined out of his gold, so that's not really to consider. He's mined out of every other base, in fact. His first 4 bases. The good news is that he was so widely saturated, so many bases, that his other bases, this one and this one, really aren't that mined out. But he still would have, I think, preferred to be on 3 bases with 60 drones, not 2 bases with 30. That is a significant problem. He also used his bank on that Remax initially, and then just whatever else he could get out before he realized he was low in drone count. So this isn't as easy peasy as remaking 30 drones and saying that's 30 seconds of my time lost. It's a very significant point of time, and Ryung, he was being pulled this way and that, but what he did to PenguiN was much, much worse. Oh, there's a lot of Vipers, but this is a funny moment where, especially if Ryung hadn't gone to Vikings, I mean, the Vipers, Blinding Cloud, and then what? Like, the Corruptors can't kill tanks, and there's really not that much on the ground. As it is, at least the Corruptors can help take out the Vikings and Liberators. Those Vipers aren't as scary as they should be. Another planetary goes down, but there's still more command centers to be spread across the map. That was a lot of Ryung's SCVs. 21 go down, leaving him with 23, but now the army... This feels like this has been like a foreshadowing or something for the rest of the game. His army is finally truly trapped in the corner of the map, and this is one of his last armies. Initially takes an okay fight against the Vikings or the Corruptors, but then the Hydras go down quickly. Not even to the tanks, really, but to the Blue Flame Hellbats. The Vikings will chase the Vipers. The Thors take out the Corruptors. And Ryung looks like he's going to be winning this first game. It's still scrappy, but Ryung has the extra orbitals. He has the extra command centers to turn into more planetaries. He's the one that's got time on his side. The lone Viper. The lone survivor. PenguiN trying to get as much as possible. Ultras and Hydras. But, you know, at this point in time, Ryung might be better off just not even sieging his tanks. He can move out of Blinding Cloud, and unsieged tank DPS is really not so bad. They can take out Ultras. Seemingly random scans going down. I guess just looking for the army, but in very odd locations. He sees Hydras, not the Ultras. Might be a little deceptive, but I don't think it matters. What has the income been like? Yeah, I'm not too surprised that Ryung has taken it for a while now. After that initial Blue Flame Hellion attack, it was pretty bad. But there's still spikes for PenguiN. Just Ryung not mining at all. This was stalled out, and this was dying. So, more scans. How many orbitals does this guy have? 4. It doesn't really have unlimited scans. They feel a little weird, but I don't think he really needs them for direct engagement anyways. Use them. Well, why not, I guess. Why not use them? I was gonna say use them before you lose them, but you don't really lose them. Well, I truly feel like Ryung has this game, but PenguiN Still has a large portion of the map with creep spread. He still knows his opponent's not mining too much. He never got this base, and he never got this base. So maybe PenguiN has a shot. I don't think he does. I think the mech army is going to be just inherently better, even supply, so more supply, it's pretty good. And I didn't even notice, PenguiN's not even fully upgraded. He's missing +3 armor. Nice attempt at taking control of the high ground, but there are tanks and scans. We know there's scans. I saw enough of them. And PenguiN is desperately thinking of what he can do against this, but the time of pulling the mech player apart, denying bases, seems to be over. RIP! By the way, guys, Odyssey, 3 gases. Not many mineral patches. Just don't see this base taken very often. PenguiN does manage to get... Well, they both manage to get maxed out. So maybe I shouldn't be calling the game quite yet, but... Just the way these engagements have been going, Ryung's taken the better end. Maybe there's one engagement, it was a while ago. Otherwise, it's been Ryung. Resources lost. Oh yeah, favoring Ryung. Okay, makes sense. Ryung really doesn't want PenguiN to mine. Okay, the drones were pre-pulled. The safety. This planetary isn't really worth taking out, unfortunately, so the army finds itself grabbing something it doesn't really need. He really shouldn't commit either. The Vipers aren't here quite yet. Okay. Scary stuff. A Viper for a Liberator isn't quite worth it, but the second Viper gets it without dying. It is really game 1, guys. Super long game 1. Oh. Doors, please. I guess PenguiN has taken back mining officially. He did have more drones at a certain point with 2 bases mining. Although Ryung now has equal numbers. That should probably be an orbital. Although if this game really did come down to like who has the best last structure or planetary, it would have been preferable. Excuse me. PenguiN has a bit of an army supply lead now. There's a world. Oh, there's a world where Hellions get flipping barbecued. Oh god. Turning them to Hellbats afterwards to kill everything off will not be a bad idea at all. At all. Bye, drones. Bye. Alright, 17 drones die. The army does respond, so the Hellions, part of them skedaddle, the other try and find more drones to kill. If they don't, the Liberator will. The Liberator has Liberator range, by the way. That was upgraded a while ago. Never really came into effect with the main engagements, but a little bit here and there. PenguiN out on 35 workers. Does he replace the workers, or does he try and fill out his army to be the best that it can be as they are coming? Well, there's right around of minerals. There's 2 mining bases that are full on, basically. And that's going to be it. More Hellion harassment. Another command center. I don't think it's necessary, Ryung. I don't think it's necessary. In fact, I'm questioning. An engagement goes down and attempts to take on the tanks. Loses PenguiN another Viper, I believe. He replaces them. Is this it? Is this the engagement? The Vipers, one of them goes down, we're even getting anything off. The rest of them try and get as many blinding clouds as possible, but there's still Liberators to deal with. There's more tanks going just so far back, and there's no way that PenguiN actually takes his engagements. Just instantly drops in that supply, and that has got to be game. I mean, he really lost right there. I don't think he realized how deep the tank line went. Otherwise, I don't think he takes that fight. So maybe he still thinks that he has a chance, but there is not really a bank here. This is one of his last mining bases. This one's only down to 4 mineral patches. He's trying to get 7 hydras. That's really it. That's really it. One more blinding cloud. 2 more blinding clouds go down, but there is still more tanks, and that's finally at 30 minutes. Ryung takes game number 1 in this best of 5 series. Good God. Good God. Okay, well. That was just game number 1. Game number 2. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be on? Proxima Station. Nope, not Gumio. Get everyone in here. There we go. Things beautiful. Let's refresh the brackets as well. I get this set up here. Alright, Rogue, Dark, Maru, Solar, Bunny, Beyond, Gumiho, Trust! Oh my god! Trust ended up bringing back his PvP against Hero 3-2. He was down 2-0 before that 30-minute game, and he brought it back. Very cool. So that means that the other tiebreaker match, aside from this one, is going to be Need versus Hero. So we guaranteed at least 2 Protosses. And then the rest of the spots were rounded out between Terran and Zerg. So completely balanced in those matchups, right? Alright. Proxima Station. In the bottom left, as the red Zerg, he is PenguiN. In the top right, as the blue Terran, he is Ryung. Doesn't go for a 3x Reaper and ends up giving us the 30-minute mech game. Thanks, Ryung. Thanks. We certainly saw enough cheese in early game in the other TvZs that we saw. Now's as good a time as any to note that this is not Sidestorm Gaming's PenguiN, but rather the Korean PenguiN. Occasionally appears in the Korean online league, Salima League, BTSL, I guess VSL maybe as well, I don't know. But doesn't get very far, so you don't really ever know a lot about this guy. But he did very well against a couple of Terrans. He put up hell of a fight last game against Ryung. We just happened to catch him 2 or 3 times here in this qualifier, but I'm glad that we did. I think we know a lot more about him, and I hope that he actually starts participating in almost every single tournament, or at least getting farther in every single tournament. But with names like Innovation, Ryung, Zest, like, you know, Hero, Beyond, like, so many good names, it's really hard for some guy to stand out. I think the only benefit he really has, and this really isn't a benefit, right, it's definitely not, is that Zerg isn't so well represented in Korea as far as these online leagues go. So this is like one shot to really shine, I suppose. Take out some really great players in qualifiers, take out some really great players in online leagues, and start making PenguiN the correct spelling of PenguiN, the more well-known PenguiN. Ryung, a guy we know a lot about, so I don't feel the need to really go into detail about him, but just an old veteran. I really don't know how long PenguiN has been playing, so I can't say that he hasn't been playing since 2010, but we definitely didn't know him in 2010, whereas Ryung was on Slayers back then. One of the originals, OG, etc. And as I mentioned in the beginning of last game, looking to be in a very good point in his career again, since there were years, I think basically all of Heart of the Swarm, where he just didn't really look that great. Maybe a TvT sniper, but even then, like, you know, in an okay way. He's going for a factory opener. Starport way back there, right then. It's going to be a Widowmine drop, so you usually see a factory and you expect it to be transferred over into the reactor, but not the case here. PenguiN doesn't have an overlord to see this. He's going to check again. That would be a very smart thing to do. And he's going to see, in fact, that it is producing without anything on it, so it's got to be a Widowmine drop. We've been seeing more Widowmine drops on Proxima, I believe. You know, either just, you know, drop them and leave them, as you would versus a Protoss, or maybe comboed with something like a Hellion run by. But this is maybe a Widowmine drop with Marines, so more of a staying power than just Widowmines. Did Reaper get a good scout? It did. It actually saw a lot. Third base is information not usually easily gained on Proxima, but somehow that Reaper did. Alright then. Okay, so we do have a tank follow-up here. This makes a lot of sense for being Proxima. Versus Zerg, not too popular, but on Proxima, popular enough. I really shouldn't say popular. It's not that popular. We see this tank abuse on the backside of the rocks, and really not that often. So it's more, in my opinion, about does the Zerg player anticipate this or not. Because it is not the most common thing in the world. It's not King Sejong Station, remember that. That sometimes Zergs don't bother breaking down these rocks. But PenguiN is on top of it. So on top of it, in fact, that it will be destroyed long before the tank push even really happens. And that is great news for him. And bad news for Ryung. As this, you know, if this doesn't do anything, it really, you didn't have very fast stim. You don't have Hellions at least patrolling for creep spread. You don't have 16 Marines and 2 medevacs ready to go around the map and drop everywhere. You have slow tanks that have to be in a very specific position to be any good. And if they're not in a good position, then they, well, you just have to wait, basically. You have to wait until they are good. They're supported by more Marines and more tanks. Ryung's looking for an opportunity. He already saw the back rocks are broken down, but he is going to still try and do what he can. It's going to be 3 medevacs in total, so he really doesn't have that shabby of an army, and it might be more about army size than it is about positioning in this circumstance. I'm kind of feeling the mech again, just because this barracks would otherwise be on that tech lab, building stim. There's the double armory. PenguiN might be getting a false sense of security. He dealt with that medevac drop so easily. Oh, Ryung's gonna go into the natural. I guess it's the third base. He's gonna go into the back base of Proxima. This could be nasty. There is a spore crawler. It's gonna manage to get one of the medevacs. That's not supposed to happen, but the positioning is pretty good, even without combat shields, even without stim. The Lings just cannot do a whole lot, and the tanks are going to destroy the mineral line. They're probably going to get the hatchery. In fact, his PenguiN really doesn't have an answer to this. He's trying to get a roach, he's trying to bring his queens down so at least they can help deal with the medevacs, and maybe, just maybe, this will be enough to deal with the tanks too. Transfuses are running low though, and Hellions got into the third base, so more drones went down. Over 20 drones go down, and the tanks are barely alive with just a couple of Marines to help support them. That pesky flippin' spore crawler, though. Come on! Alright, this is finally going to be cleaned up, but damn, it did a lot of damage. 27 drones in total, and a medevac might just survive from this. Behind it, Ryung has finished his third CC and is moving it over as an orbital and is on his way to some decent production. So even if PenguiN, if you wanted to counter, and he's going to try and do that, a mech player doesn't have to stop building Hellions, and Hellions are great against Lings. I know, amazing information. So this was an easy enough deflection from Ryung, who can calmly start building his mech army in a very good position. I want to note, too, that seeing Ryung go for mech every single game is not necessarily out of character. You know, Gumiho was known as a Gumi mech god for a long time. Even he, at this point, does not go for mech every game. Ryung did have his phases where he went mech every single game. Even when it wasn't necessarily the best thing to do. Because there were points in StarCraft 2 history where mech was actually the better option. Even aside from that point, Ryung was doing a lot of mech. So to see him bring it back when everyone seems to be bringing back mech, not too surprised. But that might mean for another long game. I mean, Ryung gets a great start to this game, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be able to close it, as that's certainly a problem with mech. Actually, closing out the game can be difficult. He does have such control over the map, though. I thought he was going to go for an actual push. Just cleans up creep spread and drops in the main, as he did last game. This time, though, the Lings aren't here. They were all destroyed, dealing with the tanks. So the Queen goes down easy peasy. Overlord's not the greatest thing to target. Please, Thors, please. There are the Lings, so not all of them were destroyed. But with that 2 armor, it does take the Lings quite a while to kill them. And Ryung, man, I'm surprised he bothered to take the fight, to be honest. It still takes Thors so long to kill that many Lings that it just, you know, there's got to be reinforcements on the way. But he saves the 2 Thors, even if one got really low. And that's the important part. We have Roaches and Hydras. We do have a Roach Warren. Yeah, that's right, they were there. Yeah, duh. Yeah, Roach Hydra on the way. Ryung already on his way to a 4cc, though, is going for tanks. He's got some Vikings. There's a couple of Cyclones even, although I'm not sure why. 2 Cyclones this late in the game doesn't seem to be very good, but okay. Maybe misclick, maybe intentional. I don't know. But more importantly, the beefier mech units, tanks, Thors, 2-2 upgrades. PenguiN kind of stuck on 1-1, trying to afford a lot of things, but can't. So more upgrades, but also, you know, a 4th base, Hive, Vipers eventually. He's not in as good of a position as he was last game. And even then, he lost it. So, I think if Ryung wanted to play a game that was a little more aggressive, he could have pushed out. After all, he's in an even supply, but... Takes his 4th base instead, turns into a planetary, waiting on his 2-2 upgrades, waiting on Blue Flame. PenguiN is going to try and do something, but that is a hard no. No. Not until he has Vipers, and even then, questionable. Medevacs available for Blue Flame Hellion drops. Hellbat drops. Whichever. And she's out and about. I imagine a Census Tower will be put over here at some point in time, but the barracks does the work too. Extra command centers, and Ryung is playing that very, very long game. So, PenguiN does have his necessary time to get to mass Roach Hydra with Vipers and a decent economy. The problem is, that army wasn't good enough in a 30-minute game. Why would it be good enough in a game where you got here much later and even less pressure? I want to say, spoiler alert, that it's not going to be. There's going to have to be some other master plan. And Proxima, I would say, is even harder map than our last map to try and get the runarounds. You know, he did an okay job at, you know, from minute 10 to minute 20, I guess, or something like that. Not even 20, but the point is, pulling Ryung around, but on Proxima, I don't think it's going to have quite the same effects. Proxima a lot more centralized in its bases. PenguiN at least wanted to stop Ryung from a 5th, but that's not going to work either. Ryung already on his way to 3 weapons, where PenguiN is only rounding out his +2, not even with his Carapace. Tough stuff. How did you survive? Oh, okay. Alrighty then. But Ryung not playing super defensive. I do like seeing him out on the map like this. I think he has the better army, and I think he has an opportunity to win the game. Vipers don't have quite full energy, but they do have some, so might want to split his tanks a little more than this. But you know what? It doesn't even matter. The Vipers use their blinding clouds and cannot follow up on it, so, I mean, they kind of might as well be dead. They have to go back and recharge. They're doing it pretty quickly. And there aren't any Vikings. This is a perfect opportunity for the Vikings to just swoop in and kill all of them, but they're not going to die, and they're going to have more blinding clouds. But Ryung, now he's going to pre-split his tanks. He is totally out of position for run-bys, though, and Ryung is going to look to lose not just a base, but maybe some production. A lot of production. How does he end up responding? He's maxed, he's almost maxed out, I guess, so he can't really depend on reinforcements to defend. Oh, God. Hellbat drops are always cool, although I don't think there was quite enough of them to be effective, and they weren't supported, so. Ryung is taking some questionable losses just with having to try and respond as fast as possible, so this ended up being quite good, and PenguiN, this is what he needs to do. Otherwise, direct engagements are going to not go well for him. But why are the Vipers coming with this? I don't think the Vipers should come with this. I don't know. Let's just ask him to be killed somehow, some way. But they managed to survive. They're just literally going to go through the entire main and live. That shouldn't happen. There you go. I guess luckily the Vikings did die, and then they popped out on the Hydras. But I really don't think the Viper should have been coming there. Like, that's an army that you look at that and you're like, well, I guess you're dead. Good thing I have a bank. Let's remake it. Not let me try and keep it alive as long as possible. Well, Ryung does get reduced, certainly, in his supply down to 165, but still with good upgrades and a good army type. Even 30 army supply down is fearsome. And the Vipers weren't in position, so. Ryung might not ever check for this base. A lot of Blue Flame Hellion run-bys helped him in that last game, but if you don't think about it, then it won't happen. He did not end up losing his production or his extra command centers. Plus, he has a gold now. So he's still A-okay. But he's, I guess, realizing the pattern here and even scans PenguiN's army. Really, if he just, creates a perimeter, shall we say, over here, he should be good to go. His army's big enough that he can spread it around a little bit. But he still hasn't produced any Vikings, and I'm like a little bit worried oh, well, I guess there are some, my bad. Well, not as many as I thought they would. I was worried the Vipers would really start to get too cost effective. If the same 4 Vipers keep coming back, that is, a lot over the course of the game. Ryung takes a fight more to what I was expecting. He kills the Vipers. They have to be remade. And he has... Oh, I was like... I saw that drone's dying, but I didn't see any blue in the mineral line. That's because the drones were pre-pulled and then killed anyway. So, big ol' fire pit right there. But Ryung has now gotten his base up. He has now secured the southern hallway, whatever you want to call it. So he doesn't have to worry about that being abused anymore. It kills the base and can now reposition to deal with the army now moving towards his gold. Vipers aren't even here. The Vikings are looking for them. They're looking for them. Not going to find them. I'm going to split his army a little bit. Upgrades currently a maxed out Ryung with 3-3 to PenguiN's 2-2 for his Roach Hydra. PenguiN has no other tech. He doesn't have an Ultra Scav, he doesn't have a Greater Spire. It is just Roach Hydra Viper and trying to make it work. He had a decent run by a couple minutes ago, but is getting pushed back. Can't quite get another base. Good thing he has this one over here. Ryung is going to start banking a lot soon. Even if PenguiN gets maxed out, it's taking him some time, and he's only at 56 drones, so he's really not that great on his economy. I guess the Vikings are looking for stray Vipers? I would say Overlord drops, but PenguiN hasn't shown us that at all, so I can't imagine Ryung's, on point against it. Ah, good. These tanks are really nicely spread. Those Vipers decided not to go for it. They would have lost their lives had they done so. I was going to say, PenguiN can totally take this base. This is a freebie. This is fine. Well, freebie for now, anyway. Ryung is still in position. He's taken the middle of the map. Hell. If he takes the middle of the map for sure, he might even take this gold base. That'd be a trick. This base was eventually thought of by Ryung. He sends half a dozen Hellions to it. Unfortunately, they all target a single spine crawler. Useless. And that was not very effective at all. Those 4 drones and a spine crawler. Not too much to worry about there. Ryung can easily replace Hellions. There go the extra starports, and he's upgrading his air weapons. A couple of Blinding Clouds. This is not a big enough army to support it, but the Vipers are starting to go down as they try to abduct and continue on with the Blinding Clouds. This isn't too shabby. There really wasn't that continuous tank line that there was in other engagements, and in fact, kind of really pushed through it. Ryung, though, is the one that ends up still far ahead in the supply. He has the Vikings alive, he has a lot more production, and he had a bank. If PenguiN is remaxing right now because he was on 7 bases fully mining this entire time, he probably wins the game. But instead, he taps out. And that is going to be a 2-0, although not very quick at all, for Ryung. Ugh. You have that moment where you just really want to sarcastically respond, but you're like, man, I really shouldn't. Looks like Ryung needs 1 minute. Alright, now we're ready to go. It's Ascension to Ire. And it is a best of 5. Looks like PenguiN's a little bit confused as well. I guess it is another stage to this game, but... or to this tournament, rather. I'll get into that after the intros in the bottom right. Has the red Zerg, it is PenguiN. In the top left, as the blue Terran, it is Ryung. So yeah, I said I'd get into it. Basically, this is a tiebreaker match, is what they call it. So there was the winners brackets, which everyone started off in. Rogue, Dark, Maru, and Solar all advanced from there. And then there was the losers brackets, which Bunny, Beyond, Gumiho, and Trust all advanced from that one. And then there's still 2 more spots beyond that. So, of course, the winners is already all said and done, so it's somewhere in the losers, and that was the round of 8 losers become the round of 4 tiebreaker matches, which become the last 2 qualifying spots. So this is like a 3rd step in the whole process, so I can't really blame PenguiN for being a little uncertain if it continued being best of 5s for qualifying matches, but it is. Ugh. It's really confusing to hear that the game sounds are still low every now and then, I guess. Because actually, what it was is like increasing the game sound in StarCraft 2 internally, but then increasing it in OBS as well by like 15 dB, which sounds like it would be a lot, but apparently it isn't. But as this was a bit of an abrupt turnaround, as Rifkin had to go to sleep, and I can't check the sound personally. It's all guesswork. Another factory opener for Ryung. For the tank drop slash push slash trick. That ended up just being a tank drop, but usually. And that worked out quite well, giving such a substantial lead in the early game. The rest of the game was almost a formality for being drawn out, but PenguiN tried his best. Seems like Ryung might just have PenguiN's number when it comes to playing mech against him, though. And I assume we'll see that again on Ascension to Ire. Saw on Odyssey, I think we'll see it on Ascension to Ire. Just a Viking this time, I guess. Oh, no, actually it's a tech level one, I'm just kidding. Alright, so Viking into a Banshee, into probably a Hellbat push, since he's also probably gonna get double armory. Maybe just the one for now. Maybe he'll trick things up. PenguiN, very limited scouting. Try to get Lings across, you know, bypass them. Didn't really work out. Marines took care of him, but he did manage to see starport building as well as a tech lab on the barracks, which, you know, some Terrans are using that as stim in a Viking, you know, Polt style, I guess is the really old-fashioned term for it, but that's not really done anymore. And you just saw the player play 2 games of mech, so assume that it's transferring over to the starport. Helling's looking every which way, very aware of potential Ling run-by. Eventually they will all group up together, though, and have a nice Hellbat push. There are a couple of Queens ready to go, as well as a Roachwarren building, but not too many Lings to help. Nothing but drones on the way as well. 7 Hellions in total. There we go, 8th one on the way. Not really a lot of Vikings with this, a lot of overloads with Viking to kill. But the Banshee could add a lot of punch to this too. That is more than the usual amount of Hellbats, I think, with the Hellbat push. Say 4 to 6. Maybe with the Benefic, maybe not. But 8 with a Banshee. If they get on top of those Queens, they're dying pretty quickly. So PenguiN's gotta run and split and focus fire. Also, he has to ideally split the drones, which isn't happening, so that's bad. That's bad. The roaches can help deal with this, but even they will take a bit of damage from the hellbats. So as you can see, the queen takes care of the banshee, but the hellbats take care of the roaches. More Helens being rallied in. Hell, the Viking could even land. I really thought it wasn't going to do too much. Lings managed to sneak in, I guess. Stop the command center from building, but don't get any SCVs for it. 6 drones went down, which isn't as bad as it looked. There was a lot stacked up there, but it wasn't too bad. And this is pushed back. It is mech once again, but not the double armory quick 3cc mech that we saw from the last 2 games. And I guess Cyclones? That could be interesting. A more aggressive form of mech actually send the Cyclones forward, and with +1, they do have a lot of extra damage. The DPS is just really, really high. The second armory is put down, and maybe it's something to do with Cyclones. He did make 2 of them kind of almost randomly, in my opinion, in the last game on Proxima. I'm not even sure what they did. But here, I guess they're quick units, and they're very effective against roaches, so he was worried about being countered, and now he should be okay. But he might take damage. He might take a lot of damage. The Banshee has to come back. The Cyclones have to be protected. And that's a lot of roaches. 2 more are on the way, but clearly Ryung was aware of the situation, the possibility. He didn't think it was actually going to come true. He didn't really have much scouting in the middle of the map. And unfortunately, while he has units to defend against this, he loses a lot of SCVs. And remember, he's not on a 3rd C... Or, well, actually, he is. Never mind. Well, he wasn't on 3rd CC as fast as he was, I guess, in the last couple of games. But still, is able to reproduce them. Loses almost 30? Probably 30. Yeah, even more going down. They're still buffering, they're still trying. Mules are dropped. And he's going to be able to produce, I guess, the mules, but 26 workers is not very good whatsoever. That was a very good attack by PenguiN. Very worth the roaches that he just put into this. And maybe PenguiN is finally going to get a point on the board against Ryung's mech. What's unfortunate about the mech, too, is that if you produce tanks, like if you produce Cyclones, they can go across the map, and then they can come back. They can retreat, and maybe do some damage, and still be able to defend. If you move across the map with tanks, they're either gonna work or they aren't. They're gonna do damage, or they're gonna die terribly, because one Ling out of position will make them worthless. Thing is, if Ryung had just kept producing Cyclones, I wonder if he takes nearly as much damage. Maybe only like 15 or 20 SCVs die. It wasn't a choke. It wasn't a lot of units. SCV's even here to help repair a little bit. This might be a very smart move indeed, but still feel like it's gonna be... I still feel like it's not gonna be worth it. PenguiN might be trying to get a little too fast to Hive. Really taking advantage of that push. But... he still has a lot of roaches. +2 weapons is done. The Cyclones will be a lot of power. At least PenguiN has +1 Carapace now. 3rd CC is finally put on location, but it's not being used. That's not going to be enough. Reinforcements will take care of it, but they might get a couple more SCVs. Ryung's still looking for a perfect opportunity to use his main army, but it's 50 armies apply to 100. I think PenguiN just simply has it. Does he really have to wait for a Viper? No. Is he? Maybe. Okay, there we go. Well, those Cyclones have some serious damage, but I think numbers will work out. Serious damage. Oh, the repair on the tank is even pretty good. The 2 tanks will not withstand this force. And Ryung is not going to get a 3-0. GG. PenguiN. Not out of the qualifiers quite yet. This was his last shots. And it's not over. think this is everyone. Abyssal Reef will be the 4th map. Still could be the last game as Ryung is leading 2-1. I don't know the score of the other match. Looks like the other series going on right now, Nia versus Hero. Hero is up 2-1. Here's your update. And now finally, I can put a point on the board for this guy in the top left. It's the red Zerg, PenguiN. Still leading, however, in the bottom right, as the blue Terran, it is Ryung. Still no shenanigans for Ryung. Maybe he's gonna play mech once again. It did work out for him quite well, and even last game, it maybe couldn't have been as bad. Had he kept producing Cyclones, had he held the wall a little bit longer, maybe those roaches don't kill nearly as much, and it's a recoverable game. But he did choose to go for an aggressive Hellion, Hellbats, Banshee attack that didn't do the damage it wanted, so there was always a possibility PenguiN's gonna take advantage of it. Losing all your army, it's always dangerous. Even if it is pretty quickly reproduced. Not that TvZ isn't a great matchup, but I am kind of a little sad didn't catch much of Hero. Hero almost already qualified and then got reverse killed by Trust. Oh shit. My bad, guys. That was way longer than last time. So again, the top left, red Zerg, PenguiN. Bottom right, blue Terran, Ryung. I thought I pressed the button, but I didn't. Good thing I check and nothing has happened. Way to go. And it's a good thing I checked as I did, because something important is now happening. There's no shenanigans elsewhere. There we go. But as soon as I said it, a Roachborn was put down, so now you can see it on the screen. Great stuff. It's the first time that we've seen PenguiN really be aggressive. That last game felt like a response. This game, definitely a planned attack here, and the Lings are going to be able to hopefully bring back that Reaper. There's a single Marine, so it looks like it's not going to happen. Oh no, Ryung's still bringing it back. Bringing it back without scouting the main base, just sees as a hatchery. And of course, that later hatchery could have only been for the Lings. He doesn't quite know that it's for follow-up roaches. PenguiN makes a few and then goes right back into droning. This is going to be difficult for Ryung, who's only, of course, he started out the game making Hellions every other game. He's on a 3rd CC very quickly here. And this Reaper, oh my god, are you kidding me? Still has not seen the roaches. Ravager morphs and Ryung is only going to be able to see it as it hits him. The Reaper's going to see a Roachborn as the roaches are actually already in his face. Oh, not even. Ah, he goes for the drones. Oh, this could be devastating. The Hellion's going to get taken out. That was an immediate turnaround, and he does immediately start a Cyclone, but he needs more than one. He needs to raise his body as well. Don't let the SCVs in. They're not worth it. Reactor would be pretty important, but it's not even building to begin with. He's not buying any time by repairing the wall either. He has a Marauder here. And a concussive shells really quickly, but is that really gonna help? Usually it's preferable to have the 2 Cyclones. SCVs are definitely gonna go down here, but with the 3rd CC already done, this could be replaced pretty easily. SCVs are actually on hold position to block the Ravagers from kiting, the roaches from escaping. Pretty cool idea. Cyclone lives, Marauders live. 12 SCVs, though, die. That puts PenguiN at 36 workers to 15. Was that worth it? I'd say so. There's just not much follow-up that Ryung has, so while he can recover pretty well with 3CC, PenguiN also has a lot of liberty with you know, Ryung's third CC. He's not going to be tagged anytime soon. It is going to be Stim, by the way, not Mech. Changing things up here. And once he has Medivacs, he can start, you know, flying around and doing damage. And PenguiN might be caught off guard. He saw a Tech Lab on a Barracks, but he also saw Marauders pop out. Like, that's still a little bit questionable for someone who he knows went for Mech 3 times before. But usually this would say for sure that it's Stim and in bio. Unfortunately, his Overlord's not going to be able to check it again. Oh, he sees a Barracks. Good enough. He knows for sure now. It's a bold SCV, man. But he needs something to scout what his opponent's doing. His opponent has a bunch of Roaches and Ravagers and Banelings out right there. At least SCV would give him some advance notice. And, you know, in an ideal world, the SCV even scouts the third base with drones on it. It gets that far. PenguiN does have a Roach Warren, but as we can see, he's producing nothing but Speedlings since then. There aren't any Hellions, so these will be very effective against what Ryung has. And Ryung doesn't have that much. Obviously, 16 Marines will deal with a lot of Lings, but 4 Marines really won't. Not like 4 Hellions. Still good enough. Lings have to retreat. SCV did not scout the third base, but didn't even scout the Illusion Shipper. Oh, okay. I think by seeing just a small Ling attack, that already is a pretty good sign. Obviously, there'd be Banelings or Roaches following this up right now if Ryung really had to worry about being all in. Still loses 4 SCVs and mining on that natural base. A lot of mining, actually. I mean, he's producing... Well, he would be producing triple SCVs if he wanted to, but he's not really using his mining bases anyway. These Lings are constantly keeping tabs on when the army is really ready to go, and as soon as it is ready to go, as soon as the medevacs are out, PenguiN's probably going to send these Lings back in. There's no supply depot wall, and Ryung doesn't really want to build one. He doesn't really need one quite yet, and it's an expensive thing to build 6 supply depots. PenguiN, meanwhile, has gotten up to a pretty good count of 60 drones. Faster +1 Carapace, so we'll be fine there. And his Spire should be done with Mutas out in time for whatever push Ryung does. Armor should be put down soon enough as well. And third CC, I would say, is going to be taken as he pushes. He is trying to build that wall now, and PenguiN does not have his Lings in position to try and run by. So it is okay for him to move out. Loads up his units. Sends to that third base. That is where PenguiN is totally ready to go, though. PenguiN with the 30 army supply lead here and all the right tools. Oh, if he loses these medevacs, they could just game. And luckily for him, there weren't quite that many mutas. So there was like twice as many mutas. Those medevacs are instantly dead, and that's into GG. As it is, the medevac might just live, and the muta count is still something he can do something about. Lane's trying to help out here. I don't know if they should get this engagement. Wants to use the glaive worms as much as possible, but these Lings were going into a meat grinder. 1-1 plus combat shields against you know, a choke as well. It's usually not too good, but there's a lot of Banelings. They have Baneling speed in like 15 seconds or something like that. And PenguiN is looking to be aggressive. He knows that Ryung doesn't have drops on the map. He just took care of him. Fourth base is over halfway done, and he started his own 2-2, whereas Ryung is still waiting on his. Here it comes, roly-poly. It wasn't even 15 seconds, it was like 5. Roly-poly right into those Marines. Really needs Ling reinforcements at this point in time. That would end up snowballing. Here they come now. This has got to be game, and I think PenguiN has brought it back to the ace match. Splits last second against the Widow Mines, takes care of whatever else is coming forward here. Ryung not really ready to believe it. Well, okay, not ready to believe it, not ready to leave at all. Definitely getting into stubborn territories. Third CC is forced to be lifted. I guess there's only 4 mutas, so it's not going to go down. But Ryung has been pushed back all the way back to his natural. He's lost a lot of army and a lot of economy. And PenguiN is just not having any other threats anywhere. There's nothing else going on, just simply rallying as much as he can forward to actually win this game. He knows there's at least one Widow Mine on the top of that ramp, so he's being kind of careful about it. There's the other one. 12 SCVs, all the SCVs are going to go down here. More Bane's going to morph in here. Roll towards the Marines. He's going to want to try and bait them back to the Widow Mine. It doesn't work. It goes off on one ling. That was it. GG. PenguiN took a very convincing early game lead, so I wasn't too surprised to see him close that out. But now it's the ace match. All 5 maps. The last map is going to be Sequencer. So I guess the vetoed maps are Blood Boil and something else I can't remember. Ah, Defender's Landing. Ah, as usual. Ah, PenguiN has the lobby error, so he needs to restart. I think the other match is done now. Refresh. Hero ended up taking the last, well, second to last Shanghai spots. Hero 3-1's Neeb. Barely makes it out. Barely makes it out. Now Ryung just needs to say go, and we can go. This is the last qualifier spot, the last map, the last qualifier spot of the last game cast on this channel, I guess. Yeah. Pretty long cast too, 6 hours. Didn't quite feel that long, but I definitely am tired and making mistakes, so, Ryung now needs a moment. Okay then. So what? 1, 2, 3. Oh, no Zergs advanced from the losers qualifier. Okay. 3 Zerg. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 Terran. 2 Protoss. Who takes the last spot? If it's PenguiN, I think it's, well, it's even on the Terran anyways. If it's Ryung, well, Terran clearly overpowered. It is midnight in Korea now, so players may be a little bit tired. Ryung may just be taking a break. I have no idea. He didn't say. I'll never know. Oh, he said go. Great. Alright, last game of today. Damn it. It's tied up 2-2. And the top right's bringing it back from a 2-0 to 2-2. It's the blue Zerg PenguiN. In the bottom left is the red Terran. It is Ryung. And I'll mention in the last game, this is the Korean PenguiN. Occasionally shows up to online leagues, tries his best in offline leagues. Don't know too much about him, but we certainly had our fill today with at least 2 series of him facing Terran both times. He did find himself in the losers match, although I think it's officially called the tiebreaker match, so obviously it wasn't the best day for PenguiN nor Ryung, but all that matters is this. Doesn't matter, really, how you qualify, where you qualify, just that you do, in fact, qualify for that trip to Shanghai at the end of July, I believe. It did push off GSL versus the World to August. That's okay. It's going to be a pretty stacked tournament. Of those players that I mentioned, of the races that I mentioned, I guess to repeat them: Rogue, Dark, Maru, Solar, Bunny, Byun, Gumiho, Trust, Hero, and whoever wins here are going to be going on to Shanghai. Unfortunately, none of the foreign hopes, such as Neeb, Snoot, or a Laser, were able to make it, but, or Nurchio as well. A lot of them, actually. But that is not, I mean, it's not surprising, not because, like, foreigners lol, but because there are so many other great Koreans who also couldn't make it. You all being a little bit sick, of course, but I'm looking at SOS, Zest, Maru. That's, I mean, even Gumiho, the GSL champion, had to get through the losers bracket, so it was a very stacked tournament. And a lot of our foreign hopes were playing on the European server. Neeb, not so much. Neeb living in Korea. But enough about them. PenguiN versus Ryung, 3 mech games. That's right, 3 mech games. Third one, PenguiN got that counter and did so well, and Ryung tried to do Bio the next game, but it wasn't Bio that killed him, it was just simply the lack of scouting that did, in building Hellions. So, they said both times that PenguiN was aggressive enough in the early game, I guess, were the ones that he won. Not going to be aggressive here. Since his Ling's in a roundabout wave, it does take a third base. Hellions going to pop out and be able to take care of them. They won't have speed anyways, so they're really not that dangerous. Bye-bye, STV. No, bye-bye, STV! Wow, that micro, though. That's when you know someone's going to win. Oh, those Lings are perfectly timed. Way to go, Lings. Oh, you're gonna die. Come on. Come on. Oh, rip. Abandoned. Betrayed. Those few Marines could have taken them on. You didn't have to die. And I guess the speed would have kicked in anyways. Well. There is an army on the way, as well as a medevac. He might have wanted to hide his Marines, in fact. That's why he didn't want the Lings to come in. Even though he knew we could have killed them and saved that poor SCV, he wanted the Marine count to be a little more hidden. As it is, I think PenguiN still saw the... That's helpful. PenguiN still saw the starport without an add-on, so he should know that it's a medevac. Although I guess it's possible to Viking. But also with the Hellions, the suspicion of a Hellbat attack should be on the forefront of PenguiN's mind. He has enough queens, I think, especially with 2 more popping out, and 24 Lings on the way, that this should not be too much of a problem, even without Banelings. What is that supply depot? That's not even helpful at all. That's just really the worst supply depot I've ever seen. But Queen is pulled back in the nick of time. Lings are barbecued, however. That Hellbat continues to live. He really wants that last Queen. Usually the Marines can just barely grab it, but they're left alone, and they die. It's surprising how much 4 Marines can add. But not only the Marines die, the medevac does die as well, and that's when this push really starts to lose steam. A couple more Hellions, I guess, come through here. We still have Hellions and even Banshees being produced. This is a tech lab on the barracks, though, so I still want to say it's undetermined if he's going to go for mech. I think it's stim. Otherwise, he would have started an upgrade on his armory, but it's, like, not quite for sure. We shall see in, like, 10 seconds here. That random supply depot is going to be even more worthless by dying. Flipping supply depot. Come on. Come on. Alright. Maybe it survives. Stim, it does start. The 2 extra Hellions, 4 extra Hellions that were produced. No, 6 extra Hellions, damn. Do end up cleaning up the Lings, so no problem there. This might be a little deceiving, though, for PenguiN, who just scouted more Hellions being produced. And nothing else. So, you see 6 Hellions, you see 8 Hellions, and a Hellbat attack, and that's not quite enough to say it's a mech. But if you see 10, 12 additional ones, I'd say more often than not it is mech. Sometimes it's a Terran trying to trick you, sometimes it's a Terran trying to, you know, make sure they don't die to a Ling counter, because there just won't be a lot of barracks production. You know, whichever one Ryung tried to do, I think it's working. Point is, like, PenguiN had everything set up ready to go for Lings and, you know, Banelings, I suppose, but instead adds on a Roach Warren pretty late after his lair is done, and immediately starts the Roach speed. Of course, he can play Roaches. More power to him. It's a perfectly viable way to go against Bio, but it's not the way that he's been playing whenever he does face Bio. So, I don't know. 3rd CC on the way, double engineering bay. We have a tech lab, as the Banshees did see a couple of Roaches pop out, I think. Yep. Well, they do. Obviously a little scared of potential attack. Built a bunker, canceled it. Random flipping the body bow. Banshees haven't really done a whole lot, but they are that emergency defense and ideally a scout on any Roach attack. PenguiN still hasn't really seen what's going on. I mean, he saw... Didn't see the 3rd CC. This isn't usually the 4th base that they take, pretty sure. Well, it's denied either way. Queen's going way off of creep. We do have Hydralisk and an Infestation Pit, and this just really confirms my fear that PenguiN thinks it's mech. It's one thing to go Roaches and a quick Infestation Pit. It's another thing to add on Hydras as well. Yeah. Funnily enough, Hydras are more used against... Or... No, actually, never mind. Not funnily enough. Well, the point is, yeah. He saw a tank and a couple of Hellbats. I think he also saw the Bio, though. But, I mean, he's kind of, like, entrenched into what he's already chosen. I think it's just a matter of not building Hydras, though, and trying to get to Ultras instead. You know, once he realizes. This is some pretty decent tank positioning. The 3rd CC, there's not even that many SCVs anyway, so not really a point that PenguiN can push. He is getting Hydras, but he's also getting a Baneling Nest, so maybe it's more about swapping over into Ling Hydra, which is something that we saw him do earlier today, and it's something that a lot of Zergs are doing against Bio. As opposed to keeping on Roach, Ravager, and Fester, which is something that we saw Snoot do earlier today. Different choices. Well, the Medevac dropped to that base that he knew was to be taken by PenguiN. It is a very vulnerable spot for a slow-moving army. I'm surprised he was so insistent upon taking it. Let's see if it works. 2-2 already started for Ryung, whereas PenguiN's still finishing up his 1-1. His Hive is on the way. What will he be getting from this? I mean, usually I would say Ultras if you're going Roach, Ravager, and Fester. But we did see Ling Hydra Viper against Bio Tank. Basically something to deal with the tanks, whatever it is. That Hive's already done and the Hydra up isn't. Swapping over into melee upgrades too, it is going to be a couple of Vipers. Ryung is going to have a good tank count, so you need something against it, and Vipers are a way to go. Very old-fashioned way to go. Roach, Hydra, Viper against Bio Tank. We already saw it once today. Banshee's catching some transferring army. Definitely should not lose the Hydras. Just get rid of the Hellbats. You don't need them. They mentioned Ryung's gonna have some nice upgrades at 2-2 and 1 for his tanks. Well, I'd like to supply Depot wall off. Even with Hydras and their speed on creep, dropping against them can start to pull the Zerg player apart. Ryung wants to keep the pressure up while he continues to get a very good army with an ideally like a big tank count. He also has a 4th CC on the way and is playing a bit to the later game. Scans to see nothing waiting for him and no base to drop, so just go straight to that main base. This drops clearing up creep tumor. Still important, but not as flashy. Gets a cancel on a base. Nicely done here. This drop fully unloaded, but PenguiN is responding. Gonna go for the spawning pool. It might have been okay to get. Not really relying on Lings, but does want a general glance, you can see. Still no Ultralisk Cavern. And still only the 1 Viper? Nope, these are 3 Vipers. Which Ryung was really hoping to snipe. He does not have Vikings like he does when he plays mech, so those Vipers might just get not only decent blinding clouds and abducts, but they also might get out and come back for more later. No sensor tower, but Ryung figures out where that army's on the move and tries reposition in time. He has a lot of tanks, but you know, they're kind of stacked up. An abduct goes down, another abduct goes down, looking for the blinding cloud. Doesn't really get it on the heart of the tanks, but this might just be a good enough concave. Ryung is pulling some SCVs. This isn't even all of his army. That's why the supplies, well, now they're looking truly, truly bad. Reinforcements come in as well, but he's got a drop over here, a drop over here, chaos everywhere. Hydra's really the only thing that remain. They can be dealt with by only a few units, but Ryung needs time to breathe. And even if he controls the situation here, he's not going to be enough. This isn't target firing drones or the base. This didn't kill the base. Ryung loses 36 SCVs. PenguiN only loses 12. Ryung has 4 CCs, but it is not looking good for our Terran, who looked so good. He was up 2-0, and then just lost it. But I guess fate intervened or something, because if PenguiN does get out, then the balance between Zerg and Terran is perfect. PenguiN, he's got so many bases, he still has so many drones, and he still has a good army. Ryung, sensor tower might have been key. Having his army back at home might have been key as well, to be honest. He did have so much army supply. Dropping, yet not focusing. And if that had been on the front lines of 4 tanks firing away, could have been very different. I think Ryung knows he's in trouble. If you're struggling to get above 100 supply this late in the game, it's not ever a good sign. And he knows he didn't kill the bases either, which is a real heartache. Killed a couple of drones, but not the bases. Yeah, Ryung definitely at this point in time just has to hope that PenguiN lets him back into the game. That PenguiN just lets him get back to like an okay supply. And, you know, runs into tanks or something, I don't know. But Ryung is still being caught out of position every now and then. Has unsieged tanks here, who's supply depots. Not that he needed them, he has plenty of supply to work with. Tanks aren't all siege, another one pops out on the wrong side of the battle. This is not that bad of a fight for Ryung, though, which is really what's scary about it, but it is... Oh, it's not. No, it's not going to be enough. The upgraded bio, the upgraded tanks, the amount of tanks, and a little bit of that SimCity seem to be just enough for Ryung to hold on. He loses only 6 workers, but was on 36, so that is a big problem. And he does lose a lot of his army still. So while PenguiN dipped down to like 130 supply, he pretty quickly remade it. And he's remaking it with better units. He's got ultras on the way that do have chitinous plating. They do. They would need to go through the best choke ever into tank fire to really work out. PenguiN's gonna just bust down this planetary because he can afford it. Ryung cannot. If he had one tank, maybe it's a different story. Oh, he does actually find the Banelings. Ah, he has a tank too. Not quite in position had they gone the other way, but in position. PenguiN withdraws. Dangerous, dangerous stuff. Of course, I think he wins, still. But this is what Ryung needs to get back into the game. Time. A lot of time. A lot of tanks. And a lot of hope. And he's starting to get his economy back up and running as he is mining out of his main and somewhat out of his natural. It's not bad. Clearly, PenguiN, though, with 3 mining bases, full on 67 drones. Another mining base on the way is looking good. Upgrades finish for Ryung, but are finishing as well for PenguiN. Just taking down any possible choke problems, I guess. Not a bad use of his time. And Ryung, without Marines on the map, well, he has a couple. Lots of towers. I think he can actually take a... no, I mean... He can take a fight, so it wouldn't be very good, not that supply, but he can take a fight if he knows where to be in position and where to already, you know, to micro. But if he's ever caught out of position, then that's just like an easy peasy win. He needs what he can, just searching, looking. Of course, PenguiN could probably just brute force this game with the ground army that he has. Adding on a greater spire for Broodlords is not a bad idea at all. You know that Ryung is hoping a lot on these tanks, doing a lot of work. And Broodlords deal with tanks very well. You also know that Ryung can't really afford to add on starport. More starports and more Vikings, so... that is a lot of chaos. Tanks try their best, but it wasn't even that good of a choke. I mean, they're still alive. And they're still alive, so they're actually starting to hammer away here. The fodder for the Ultras went down, and so did the Ultras at the end. Had to pull back. PenguiN, I still don't think he can throw the game, but he is getting very close. I mean, it's also one thing to be like the situation on 3 bases for Ryung, but the fact that he managed to save his planetary on both occasions against the Banelings and now against the Ultras puts him in that position to maybe have a comeback. It's got a single medevac drop just checking around. It's not going to do very much ever, probably, but I think the idea is good. It's scouting. It might be able to stop a base or two from getting down too quickly. And it's not just scouting, you know, for where the army is, but also for the composition. Knowing when Corruptors or maybe Broodlords are out is important. A little bit of creep spread. If he gets that infestor, that'd be great use of the drop. Just a creep spread. He might just be able to secure a 5th base. The thing is, a lifted main is usually not very hopeful, but if that's the only place you're focusing your defense on, then maybe. He's got so many tanks to run back to as well. He should really not be afraid of Vipers. This is still a game, and I'm quite surprised by that. If he cleans up this Ling and PenguiN forgets to send another one down, this also might be an opportunity to get away with like a hidden base almost with a natural. Upgrades have already been invested into, something that Ryung doesn't have to worry about at least, and he might just get maxed out here. Now, he sees the Corruptors, and what could possibly be his answer against Broodlords? I think... you can't just give up on your tanks. You can't just be like, well, tanks are bad now, like, let them just throw them away. You absolutely need them, but they'll even start working against you with the Broodlings. Vikings, obviously a way to go, but we have a Ghost Academy instead. And the Ghost Academy is Neato Burrito because it deals with effectively 2 late-game armies. Ideally. It's only 2 late-game armies, so... it can attack the Broodlords, and it can sight down the Ultras. So, it's a little bit better than... I think the tanks dealing with one and the Vikings dealing with another, and then the whole, like, you know, do they get fungal? Do they get... Well, basically, yeah, do the Vikings get fungal and do they die, right? The ghosts are a little bit scarier, and they're also, I think, better defensively. If they can stay behind tanks and bio, and there's, like, 8 of them, Berserk player's gonna always be careful about pushing into it. Always. Because if they push into it, they can't retreat. The snipes will follow them. So, while ghosts are expensive and sometimes they suck. They get fungled. They go on the front lines, they get fungled. They get tapped by a Ling, they suck. I think in this defensive position, it's exactly the way to go. Ryung does have a 5th base now, by the way. Like, this is now his 5th, and it's fully mining, and he might even be able to afford to get to those 8 ghosts I was mentioning. They're quite expensive mineral-wise, but that's something he has enough of, keeping his minerals and gas quite in balance, in fact. In balance. Not imbalanced. That drop finally goes down, but it wasn't really doing very much. I think it was kind of a safety blanket, to me anyways, where you at least know where the army is, at least know there's an attempt to fall back, stuff like that. Sensor towers are down now as well, so he should be able to reposition every single time. Now, this could come down to a question of, can Ryung ever push into PenguiN? In which case, that might never ever be a possibility, but I think at this point in time, PenguiN can't push into Ryung. There's an extra command center, not just, for hopes and dreams of the future, becoming a planetary at a new base, but also for a little bit of Sim City. Ultra's gonna derp out against that. And there's a decent number of Liberators protected by missile turrets. So, Corruptors, there's plenty of them, but they are gonna be pretty scared about running in there. There's 12 of them. Can PenguiN really throw this game? He was in such a good position. Like, dear lord. That accidental swarm host. Cancel. Cancel. PenguiN now on to another base. His economy, of course, has been rock, and I'm surprised that Ryung even had a little tiny little bit of a blip. That was the Mule Hammer. He has taken this base down here, and it's going to be a planetary. Like, I don't even think PenguiN's going to be able to deal with that. He'd have to break down these rocks and then deal with it. Well, he might be able to deal with it. Still, it's going to take a while. It's going to mine. Now, as far as any other bases for Ryung, that's really questionable. I mean, this one is going to pull him apart left and right. This one's going to focus all of his attention on the right side and might be the safest bet. But, yeah. Oh, PenguiN gonna go for it? I don't think he should. Oh my god, the snipes are going down. There's so many snipes. He tries to blinding cloud, but that's only a portion of the tanks. The Corruptors manage to live, but all the Ultras die. Holy shnikes. Even EMPs the Queens. Who sees that anymore? There's so many ghosts left over. Okay, you should be really careful about this. They don't have a lot of energy. I mean, this many ghosts, I guess they're doing decent enough DPS just by themselves, but... Oh my god, all of his ghosts live. All of his tanks lived. Really? I think only like 2 died. God, did PenguiN just really throw? I mean, he had such a big bank that he's remaxing on nothing but air. Oh my god, that was like 30 Corruptors. And 11 Broodlords. But the real question for me is, does he have any Infestors? He has 1 Infestor. There's still so many ghosts, and they're gaining their energy back. An air army really isn't that scary, to be honest, if you have, like, a bunch of ghosts. The only thing that's really missing for Ryung, I would say, is maybe a couple of Thors. But I think, more ghosts is maybe more good in this situation. He is... It's like you're starting to mine a little bit. You're starting to make a little bit of money, so you're like, maybe I should actually start investing. But really, you're still living, like, paycheck to paycheck. I feel like that's kind of what Ryung is doing. Like, maybe you shouldn't be investing into the future, but rather on, like, where your next meal's coming from. Because I don't know if going into starports is really going to be even that helpful. I don't know. We'll see. It's an option, I suppose, for the future. What are you doing? Just checking the army, that's what. Alright, so the tanks aren't like, why would they even siege? Like, there's really, I mean, if they're gonna deal with the Ultras, they can probably do that on siege. A bunch of snipes go down, but there are still transfuses. The ghosts are running out of energy. They're being attacked now as well, but the Broodlords are all going down. A couple more snipes will take it. There's only 2 Broodlords left. All of the Ultras died. All of the Queens are gonna die. And while the Corruptors live, PenguiN loses another army. And, there's still a lot of tanks and ghosts left. I mean, they have to regain energy again, but Ryung had a bit of a bank himself this time. He scans and is probably very disappointed to see another mining base that isn't even having Jones on it, so that probably means that PenguiN's fine on economy. But, another 1 fight for Ryung. But while he won 2 battles, the war is definitely still going in favor of PenguiN, who is now getting on top of this base. You can't out-repair the Corruptor P. You can't. It just, that's the best solution to that plant I've ever seen. That's so dumb. That is so dumb. There's not much you can do. You can hope to catch the Corruptors with snipes, because they do have to, you know, stay around for a long time, but that's all you really can hope for. You know, it'd be a baller move. If Ryung could somehow grab that Greater Spire before Broodlords were remade, I think that would be, like, almost game over. Very good reaction. I didn't think Rio was going to be able to do that, but unfortunately these are 3 Jungle Clan Lings, and the supply depots don't actually matter. Ghosts, they do okay, but not when they're surrounded, and, you know, they just die like that. Another orbital's going to go down just to the regular old Corruptors. Things are starting to get way too hectic, and while PenguiN gave 2 armies to Ryung's cause, he is still such in a dominant position, I don't think it matters. You know, I kind of excluded this base as an option to take, but I guess this is also the more natural one to take from Ryung's position. Alright. He can't protect it, though. He doesn't have his ghost in position. They've been running around everywhere. If they pee on it, it's dead. I need to pee on it. Oh, lift it down, lift it down, lift it down. Okay, never mind, it's dead. There was an attempt. You know, there is no answer to that. There is an attempt, but there was no answer. Oh, Ryung, he did so well for so long just playing the defensive game, but now feeling the burn, feeling like he needs to push forward here, and I guess he's not wrong. He is going to run out of money soon enough. Tanks aren't sieged. Ghosts need to split. Manages to get a couple of snipes off on those ultras, and he is trying to push through here, but another Ling run by is going to catch his reinforcements. It's going to be devastating his reinforcements as well. There's so many Lings. This is now the most powerful tool that PenguiN has. He can't get the snipes down. They all die. Oh, the screams. GG. PenguiN. He brings it back from a 2-0. And almost throws that last game. Oh, Jesus. Well, that was a series. Started off with a super long mech game into a reverse kill. GG. That's it for the qualifiers. PenguiN is officially the last qualified player in this tournament. He will balance out the Terran and the Zerg. Poor Protoss only left with 2 to make it out. But, yeah. That's gonna be that. I'm super tired. It's been a long cast with long games of solo casting and producing and all that stuff, so I'm going to say my goodbyes. You can find me again along with Rifkin on the channel Base Trade TV. We are casting in 9 hours, 8 hours, something like that. The Road to DreamHack North American qualifier for Atlanta. That is in 8 hours, I believe. And, you know, watch that on Base Trade TV. You can follow me on Twitter at TG Gaming, on Twitch, ZombieGrub, on YouTube, ZombieGrub, Patreon, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks to ESL for hosting the tournament. And we will see you guys, well, I guess this channel will see you guys in Shanghai in a month. See ya.